Welcome to the Soulful Expression Podcast. I'm your host, Marjorie, and I'm an intuitive coach, energy alchemist, medium, and channel, supporting you in discovering and developing your soul gifts. On this show, we talk anything energy alchemy, quantum healing, energetics, and intuition. How it's all connected to our passions, our soul's essence, and its unique expression. If you're interested in conversations about soul-aligned, heart-centered, and consciousness-expanding living, and in receiving practical tips on personal development, manifestation, soul growth, owning your magic, and so much more, this podcast is for you. Get ready to unlock your unique, magical, soulful expression. Hello and welcome, beautiful souls, to the Soulful Expression Podcast. I'm your host, Marjorie, and today I invited my favorite astrologer and dear friend, Patty Yoon, to share a cosmic forecast for Sagittarius season with us. Stay tuned to learn more about the gifts that Patty and I have for you. We're going to share them in a little while. Thank you so much for joining us in today's conversation. And thank you so much, Patty, for being back on the show. I really appreciate you and your genius dorkiness. So welcome, Patty.
Duh, of course I'm here. I love doing these with you, Marjorie.
Yes. Oh my God. What a wild ride we had during eclipse season and Scorpio season. I feel like I just came out of the washing machine and I'm kind of
like a whirlpool, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm kind of confused like about the path leading to the tumble dryer.
Ooh, that's actually a wonderful way to describe the transition from Scorpio to Sagittarius. It's like this intense water, emotional whirlpool going into the fiery sky, right? And it's so different. I mean, which we're gonna definitely elaborate on, but hopefully as you get further into Sagittarius season, and for any listeners that relate completely to what Marjorie described, this is when we kind of dry out a little bit. This is when we get a bigger picture view. And so don't worry, it's coming.
It's coming. I mean, we went through a lot of transformational energies, right? No matter if on a smaller or a bigger scale, I feel like the universe was guiding us to like purge and purify our system and our energy, our lives on so many levels. I don't know, at the time of this recording, which is about a week before the beginning of Sagittarius season, I can tell you that I'm still in the phase of rest, but I'm slowly coming out of the washing machine. So, but one thing I've learned over the years about healing is when we heal big and major themes, it's so important to go through a downtime phase where we just hang out with ourselves, where we don't force anything, because this will make things only more confusing. So I've been a couch potato for the past 1.5 weeks. I'm eating a shit ton of carbs. I'm healing ancestral wounds at the same time. And also I'm replenishing my energy big time. So I'm curious to know, Patty, how did the past 4 weeks or so go for you? Now that we're almost out of eclipse season. No, we're already out of eclipse season.
Right before the Scorpio new moon. So yeah,
exactly.
We're out, but I mean, just because the planets move doesn't mean that we like switch our feelings on or off, you know? So yeah, if you're still feeling it, you know, if you had significant stuff come up, then yeah, of course you're still feeling it. That totally makes sense. It's like the dust is still settling, you know? And well, actually, as you were talking about that, before I get into how the last 4 weeks went for me, which were it was a lot, but I was just having this conversation earlier with a group of women, and we were talking about this sense of like, maybe this is like internalized capitalism, but we often think of periods when we're not doing anything as like nothing's happening, or like I'm not getting anything done, and I'm not moving forward, when actually she put it like, perhaps those periods when you're resting or when nothing is happening is actually when all the stuff is happening underneath the surface. And so if we start to value that time as that sort of like time when the caterpillar goes into the cocoon and is just like swimming around and like breaking down, it looks like nothing's happening on the outside. And so those periods of rest are so important for healing and manifestation, because that's when actually a lot of this stuff is totally happening. And then when you come out of that, then you're like, okay, all the inspired action, go crazy, do all the things, right? Setting the boundaries, breaking up, meeting someone new. Like that's when those things happen. So these periods, this couch potato period you're talking about, which I've kind of sort of been in for a couple of months now, which is very, very unlike me because I'm very action oriented. I think a lot of times we can get caught in this loop of being like, why is nothing happening? Or I should be somewhere else right now. I should be doing something else. And it's actually the most potent time for the changes that we're seeking to start taking root. It is actually when the most stuff is happening. So if you need that rest, please take it, because that is very, very important. I'm still doing it too, for sure. Still resting.
Yeah, because there is a lot of internal things moving, right? Like even though I feel like, okay, nothing is happening, but internally, like the rearrangement is happening. Right? That's
Yes.
when the potency is like being birthed.
No, and it's starting, you're building the scaffolding. You're starting to build the frame of what that new anything is like, right? New, showing the way you show up in relationships, the way you show up at work or work or anything you do. So yeah, it's very, very important. The last 4 weeks, still, as we record this, we're still in Scorpio season. I mean, that Taurus lunar eclipse, for those of you that felt that in a major way, which was just before, it was October 28th. If we like kind of overlap it into Libra season, we just went through a very, very powerful time because we really went into a new set of cycles, which I think we talked about a lot in the last episode, the last Libra season episode.
Yeah.
And then in Scorpio season, what was really interesting was we had that Taurus lunar eclipse, and I really experienced that as the major closing, and you don't know how that's going to show up, which is what makes astrology and the universe so fascinating, because you just know something's coming and it's giving you clues about this, but you don't know how it's going to show up. And God, I mean, geez, like the way it showed up, I was like, wow, I mean, this is like some serious confirmation and validation that these things are ending in my life, but they are things, it's for the good, right? And there's, of course, grief and all of that, but I really saw like a lot of signs pointing me in the direction that I wanted to go. And it's very emotional and very tumultuous, but it really felt like a huge wrap up. Did you feel that as well? This like big wrap up of, I know you did, but I mean, I'll let you elaborate.
Oh my God. Yes, I did. It was, oh my God. I think I closed out a cycle that's been going on for almost 2 years, right? And the last bit of the eclipse season was the big show, like the big reveal, boom in your face. This is what you've actually worked through the past couple of years. I mean, I did so much healing and so much digging and so much reflecting. You know what happened because you were there all the time with me. And then the realization just a couple of days ago, I've been doing all that healing that was guiding me to get to that major breakthrough point. And it was such, I don't even know how to describe it. Like I've hit, how do you say? Like
it felt like implosion or like a quiet explosion that like sometimes you can have those realizations that really just like shift the way you look at everything, and that's what that felt like for you. It like shifted your perspective on everything.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that for me, because you are a genius in interpreting and summing up my life. So I'm just giving you all the I'm just giving you all the details. Exactly. And you do with my details whatever you want to do, but you reflect them back to me in a way that I understand myself better, So yeah, it was deep healing and connected to ancestral trauma and generational trauma, and also to the long-lived fear of death that I actually tapped into only 2 years ago. And then realizing how this fear of death, I mean, it's so irrational, right? I'm not actually, like, my life is actually not threatened, and I am safe. I don't know, I'm not alone. I'm loved, I'm guided. But at the same time, realizing this inherited energy, how it formed and created the patterns throughout the generations, and how this energy reached me, and how I, through that, created my own patterns. I mean, what? It was so mind boggling. It was so crazy. Yeah, it feels like it's still so fresh. So I feel like I still need more time to process and to integrate what I've released, not just for myself, but for the whole maternal lineage. So, whew, I'm still being a couch potato, actually.
Oh,
As I,
that's a lot. That's a lot. That's like hundreds of years of stuff, right? That you're really
Mhm.
working through and unpacking and feeling. And I think that is so powerful. And we've talked about this before, where these sort of tropes or these sort of cliches of like fear of death, or like I'm afraid they're gonna leave me, so I push them away. And we know these things as like common, like we self-diagnose ourselves therapeutically. But when you do what you did, which is discover how you personally were impacted and you personally were living the fear of death, because it doesn't show up like we're afraid of the grim reaper or we see a knife and we're like, oh, I'm scared. It doesn't show up like that at all. It shows up in the micro behaviors and in the micro beliefs and in the ways that we shut ourselves down for that fear. And it is, I feel like what was so fascinating about what you did is you really went in and you looked at like, why is this here? Why is this here? And you kept going further until it rooted to the fear of death. But by going that route, instead of just being like, it's fear of death, I don't know, like you really
Mhm.
discovered how it is so insidious. It like impacts every avenue and area of life, every interaction that you do. And you're like, why am I doing this? Why do I believe this? And so it takes that incredible work that you did for yourself and for your lineage to be like, let me explore. Why the fuck do I automatically do this at the grocery store? Like, what is happening here?
Mhm.
Why do I do this with my kids? Why do I feel like this when I see a police officer? Like, why do I feel like this
Mhm.
when I look at my bank account or any of those things? If we do that digging and also do digging with our own lineage, like you did, what happened in your mom's generation, your grandparents' generation, you come to the understanding of these very broad ideas on such a personal level, and is profoundly healing. It is a
Mhm.
profound and deep understanding of something that can feel incredibly general and broad, but it's not, because you're living it every day.
Yes, yeah. See, that's what I mean. You sum up my life so beautifully. But what I want to add is the way I was able to tap into that root inherited imprint was actually through one of my gifts, which is language, right? Like language and sound and the vibration and the voice and communication, which was also at the same time one of my core wounds, right? So it's so interesting how all of these things are so interconnected, and how we're able to use our gifts to access energies that we thought weren't accessible. Yeah, I feel like I'm feeling all the energies right now. Like my body is vibrating. I can feel the energy moving. It's crazy. So it's still there. Like I'm processing in real time. So yeah, thank you for the therapy session.
And yeah, I don't know. It's just really, it's going to be so interesting to see what we discover, what you discovered, and what any of us discovered in eclipse season, in Scorpio season, with that very powerful Taurus lunar eclipse, how we're going to carry that forward, because I love it. Like sometimes people see astrological transits coming up and they're like, oh my God, what if something terrible happens? And I used to do the same thing, right? I used to be like, oh my God, I'm going to go bankrupt. And then I heard this one astrologer very calmly be like, nothing is created in a vacuum. Everything builds on what you did in the time period before, and also how you're carrying what you've learned and what you've discovered into the time coming up, right? So sometimes there are random acts of craziness that happen in our lives for sure, but I think it takes a lot of the anxiety out of it when you know that you've just discovered something very profound and you can take that into Sagittarius season. See the bigger picture view, the wisdom, the intuition, the philosophy, your own life philosophy, how you put it together. And then you carry that into Capricorn season. And of course, every part of your chart. It's very powerful stuff. Even if you like do it and you're like, well, what the fuck am I going to do with this? Right. And it's like, no, you're doing something with it. You're going to do something with it, like.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, just by doing the work, the deep inner work already changes you. And we talked about this just a couple of days ago. When you change, everything changes, right?
Oh, man.
And yeah, especially on those micro levels in our life where even the tiniest interaction can be so different. And then all of a sudden you catch yourself and you go, whoa, who was this person? Is that me? Did I just do that? Yeah, that's the way we change. It's not like a step by step by the book healing, right? I have to do this, then I have to do that, and then this is going to change, and I'm going to go towards that direction. No, it's not. It's so much about being in the moment, really, and being able to witness your change in real time.
Ooh,
right?
I feel like that is such a powerful way to sum up what many of us have been learning with the Taurus North Node and what we just finished with the Taurus lunar eclipse. Like present moment, being in the body, responding instead of reacting, patience, and trust. And so it is. And I think we've talked so much about survival mode. And I think collectively it's been a shit show. And if we think back just in the last couple of years or few years, it's been a real shit show. And right now it still is. And we talk about survival mode and that concept of one big change, and then everything will be different, right? And then even the step by step, like what's the right way to do this? There is no right way to do this. I mean, that's how I love to work with astrology. You have the Marjorie way, I have the Patty way. That's how we get to what we want, right? And we have our own timelines with that. And so in the moment that you just described it is helping heal, I think, collectively also when we're going through so much craziness that is making a lot of us just not feel safe. Even if we're far away from the conflict, we can still feel not safe. I feel like that on some level, all of us were invited to tap into that with the Taurus North Node for the last, the eclipse cycle that just ended in October, that October 28th one. Perhaps like you or even like me, some of the listeners have experienced in that time frame. It was like so much confirmation, so much validation, so much this path is the path forward for you because you want to do this, right? This is here to help you uncover this thing that you need to know to live life more in peace for yourself. And this Taurus is so much about peace. And so it was but it was an eclipse, right? So it was also like, dude, shit that came up for me. I was like, yo, this is fucking bonkers. But it still felt very validating and very confirming, like, get rid of the stuff that is not bringing peace to your life or it wants to leave. Are you going to do these things that will help it leave? Which was filing my taxes differently, which was moving forward on certain contracts and agreements and even settling into what I want my life to be, even if it isn't totally there yet. It just felt like so much confirmation and validation to be like, keep going, do it, And so,
yes.
I wonder if people experienced it more like you, where they hit the root of something, or if they experienced it more like me, where it was like a big reveal, a big root, but it was also like pushing. It felt like
moving through the energy.
Yeah.
Sure. Moving through the shit that's not meant for you anymore, tying up loose ends and just leave it in the past, move on. Chop. I know it's easier said than done because I'm like literally in the middle of healing big shit, but It is like that. I mean, to allow ourselves to take that time to grieve, to move through the shit, to move through the emotion, through the energies, to file our taxes differently, right? To whatever it is that we are guided to move through. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like now, after everything we just went through, it feels like Sagittarius season feels like more movement, more flow, more freedom. And I feel like it's the season where we get to kind of integrate all the stuff that had been stirred up during Scorpio and eclipse season, right? Shall we talk about the Sag themes real quick before we
Yeah,
discuss
yeah.
anything integration and implementation?
Yeah, one thing before we move into Sag, after the lunar eclipse, we did have a Scorpio new moon, and that was right when eclipse season
Oof,
ended. And
yes.
that one was also very much like, it just felt like a real exclamation point to the lunar eclipse, because it was very like,
Boom in
go.
your face.
Yeah, I think it was very like disruptive. It could have been really chaotic, but it was still more of that like, move through this, move this stuff out that you don't want. It felt very much like, go your own
Mhm.
way, break away, but not just break away into what you want, right? And so it felt very, I don't know, it felt like someone was ringing a really loud bell, that Scorpio new
Mhm.
moon. And not like an alarm, but just kind of like, "Jing, jing, jing. Okay, what's going on?" And so even that felt like a real push forward in some ways, even if it was just internally, not externally. So then we just had all of that, and now we're entering into Sag season. And so if you think about Scorpio into Sagittarius, just generally, Scorpio is like, let me dive deep, let me get real emotional, let me change, let me discover secrets, get very like intense and probe. It's like you're digging into the ocean or the earth, and you're like, let me just keep digging, and then you shoot like an arrow out into the sky. You're like, I've just discovered
Mm.
so much, and now I can see an even bigger picture with Sagittarius season. That's kind of the
Yes.
theme, right? And I always think about this, especially this transition, is like, okay. Like what is what? Like what means something to me? What's my bigger picture? How am I framing everything? Like which direction do I want to go in? What do I want to learn? How do I want to
Where's the
grow?
tumble dryer?
Yeah, it is exactly. So it is like wisdom, learning, experimentation, adventure, like just kind of
Mhm.
being like, let me just try something new. You're kind of like, and shaking it off a little bit. So that's what we're getting into.
Yes. Yes, I can totally feel that energy rolling in already. Like, even though I'm still processing the Scorpio energies, I feel like the Sag energies are also like rolling in already. And of course, when we heal deep stuff, it is not just like changing this one thing in this one area in your life, but you begin to see that it affects or it had affected other areas in your life too. Like yesterday and today, for example, even though I was still this couch potato, I somehow had this little light in my heart telling me to go and to sit down and try this one thing out and to experiment with that thing. And it kind of brought this playful energy back into my life. It felt so easy. And also, it felt like it was connected to that big reveal that I just went through. So I don't know how to explain that. Does that make sense?
I on a few levels, right? Because this playful, I don't know that I would say playful because I think of like traditional keywords, but there is something very like experimental, right? There's something kind of
Mm-hmm.
like one of the key phrases for Sagittarius season would be like, I'll try anything once, right? I mean, there's this astrological dorky joke that's like, if you have a Venus in Sagittarius, it's like, I'll try anything once, like the slutty Venus, But you can almost think about yourself that way. Like, how can I be slutty with my own mind, with like what I learn, with like what I want to try, what I want to experiment? Not slutty in like a bad way, right? But just slutty, like, let me just try it. Let me just see. Let me like experiment
Mm-hmm.
with it. Let me not feel any guilt or remorse for just trying something.
Yeah.
Let me see how that feels. That's what this experimentation, this learning, and almost like I won't know until I try it. I won't expand
Yes.
my perspective or anything unless I try it. it has this real like, yeah, I'll try anything once attitude. And so I feel like what you just talked about was that Scorpio to Sagittarius transition, right? Of like, you just went and you healed something real fucking crazy. And then that unlocked this experimental attitude, and even being like, there's faith, right? Like I can just have faith that I can try this and it'll be okay,
Oh,
right? And
yeah.
if you're in survival mode, that's not really an option. There's that part of what you said that I think really relates. And it goes back to what we've talked about before, where you think in order to improve your career, you got to just keep working at your career. But if you actually heal these core wounds, it automatically unlocks whatever you're struggling with. You know what I mean? It's like they're like,
Yes.
even though they don't seem related, it's like totally somehow you heal something and you grieve it and you like feel it all the way through. And then you're like, oh my God, now I see what I really want to do over here in this other part of my life. And it is really
Mhm.
maddening and mind-blowing, but it's also so much validation that this work is so important for you, you know, that your path isn't the same as anyone else's. So I think what you said just touched on all of that. That's what I was getting from what you said.
Oh, yeah, and also like it made me think of tasting new flavors so
Mm,
you can find new nuances in your life, right? Like making those changes by trying something new, tasting new flavors, not just with food, with everything in your life. Like what does spark your interest? What do you find attractive at this moment? And then go ahead and just explore and, go with that inspiration, go with what feels like more movement, like flow, really.
yeah, and really
Yeah.
just I think part of this integration and implementation process after eclipse season and how Sagittarius season can play in is like tasting those new flavors, going to new places, trying new things, wearing new shit, patchworking it together. And, I love this one thing with Sagittarius, which is like you're weaving your own tapestry of life. So if that's cowboy boots and Adidas sweatpants, totally great, and you're eating Chinese takeout at the park and wearing a baseball cap. I don't know. Like I was just trying to think of the most like random things together. And you have 6 dogs. I don't know. Like it's like you can just put all
Mhm.
these things together that don't make logical sense, but that's that experimentation that you're really encouraged to do right now, so you can weave together your own picture,
Mhm.
right? Your own preferences, your own whatever it is. Um,
Yeah. And also maybe creating new patterns, right?
New beliefs
Yeah.
for sure in Sagittarius season. You can really
Mhm.
forge new rules for yourself, new beliefs for yourself by allowing yourself to experiment with the process for sure.
Yes.
One thing I love to do is talk about ways that we can embody this, how we can move through this sign. And you don't have to do this in the way you think it's supposed to look. Like you don't have to be Indiana Jones, right? But you do it in the way that feels right for you. So one of the ways you can think about moving through this next month is being your own version of an explorer or an adventurer. Maybe that's in food, maybe that's in books, maybe that's in painting or classes, your own philosophy, being a nomad, right? Mixing and matching whatever the hell you want, and the student of life. And so there's this really like I'm just experimenting and seeing how I piece it all together, which is so nice after the last 2 months that we went through. So you can just
Mhm.
try those on. Be like, I'm out in the city. What would I do today if I were a nomad? What would I choose to do today if I were an adventurer? Right? It's like little experiments like that where we can really tune into the cosmic current that's present for you. Because what you
Yeah.
choose to do as an adventurer on a day in the city is going to be different than what I choose as an adventurer, in the cities. I think that really leaves a lot of room for synchronicities, signs, confirmations. We just kind of open up to that flow when we allow ourselves to try these archetypes on. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm being very long-winded today. I'm sorry, Marjorie.
No, it's okay. You're good. So I was thinking of a couple of things as you were speaking, being the explorer, the adventurer, the philosopher, the nomad, the student of life. It speaks so much to opening up to your intuition as well and to really live in that fresh breath of air.
Yeah, being carried by the wind of your intuition, maybe, or the like something like that, right? Like being like, I don't know, let's see what happens, you know?
See, we are philosophical now. Oh my God. So, like one of the energies I want to touch on is the start of Sagittarius season is with a bit of a grinding quality, right? You talked about outside of the episode about Mars, the Sun, and Saturn. Are those three together like creating a disruptive energy? So what can we
So
expect?
the first couple of days of Sagittarius season, we do have Mars, Sun, and Saturn, and they're in kind of a tough aspect. And I think this is really interesting because we're coming out of Scorpio season and we're making the transition. And when Mars and the Sun and Saturn come together like this, it can feel like making aligned commitments, aligned boundaries. So it's almost like you are getting sort of a check in, like a reality check or like an alignment check at the beginning of Sag season to be like, what are you taking forward with you? What's worth it to you? What do you want to commit to? What boundaries do you need to set? Where are the energy leaks? Like, what do you need to set boundaries around, or what do you need to protect for yourself and for what you want in your life? And then even if you're making commitments, that's also like setting the stage for the rest of the month as well, right? And so there, it starts out with a little bit of a grinding or serious quality to it. And if you feel like, oh my God, this is so much work, or why is this such a grind right now? It's because you're making a diamond to carry into the rest of the season. And so you can treat that time as like, if it's frustrating, if there are stall outs, if there are delays, it's like helping you integrating what you just went through. How does it impact the rest of your life? What commitments are worth it to you after everything you've just experienced and learned, beliefs, right? How do you tune into your own values? What needs to change? So I think Sag season is interesting because you don't think about that with Sag season, but it just so happens that that energy is present in the beginning of Sag season this time. So I recommend, this is before the full moon on the 27th, that first weekend of Sag season, the day surrounding it. If you're like, dude, shit is blowing chunks right now, or like, dude, this is hard, or, it's for that reason. And so hopefully that invitation will help you move through anything that comes up because you're sort of like recrystallizing yourself in that time and with whatever comes up for you. It's like asking you to get more solid in yourself. You may have to make some hard decisions or tougher choices that you may not feel comfortable doing, but they have to serve you. That's the whole point of it,
I
Does that
love
make sense?
it. Yes, absolutely. It feels like we are being invited to armor up and to become really stronger, essentially.
And like solid in yourself, to like really carry you through, almost like commit to what you just learned. It'd be so crazy to heal and be like, okay, well, I'm not going to apply this anywhere else. Like, I'm just going to like let it be in my heart and that's it, And then
Let me go back to my old version.
like, it's almost like saying, nah, you can't do that, bro.
Oh my God. But okay, for the listeners who don't know when Sag season is starting, it's on November 22nd, right? We haven't talked about
it yet. November 22nd to December 21st. Yes.
Okay. Because I was thinking we were already talking about, the full moon on the 27th of November.
Oh, no. Okay, so when are we going to really feel Sagittarius season begins on November 22nd, and I would say between the 22nd and the 26th is when we'll really feel this Saturn kind of energy of, are you following your own rules? Are you following the things that are right for you? Are you doing things in the way that are right for you? And then the day after that, we have the Gemini full moon. So that's to give dates for people who are like, well, when is this happening? What are you talking about?
We're sorry.
We just have so much to talk about with all the stuff that's coming. So we got really excited. And so that's something definitely, I think, to keep in mind, I think that would be really, if I didn't know that and I was struggling, I'd be like, what are we doing right now? Right. But knowing that I'm going through it's almost like you're going through a tight hole and then you're coming out on the other, maybe like a birth canal. Right. And then you're just not that intense though, but, and then right after that, we have the Gemini full moon, which I think if the more serious you get with that Saturn few days is going to help you with the full moon because This one feels very distracting and confusing. Like a lot of stuff will come up, a lot of information. But of course, the stuff coming up is all there to be like, well, what really matters to you, right? Like I feel like that's one of the big themes for the Gemini full moon. So it's almost like adding to that Saturn energy of this confusion or these distractions, all these words and information. They're just inviting you to get really what means something to you, what really matters to you, what's being shown to you right now. Full moons are so much about reveals and illuminations, internal realizations that are there to be like, okay, here's your next step forward. And so with the confusion, with maybe even potential conflict at the time, because we have Moon and Mars, the questions really are like, with what's revealed to you, where do you really want to go? And what's actually relevant, to where you want to go and what means something to you. So it feels like a really interesting pocket of time in the beginning of Sag season.
But also, it feels like there's a lot of opportunities to expand more towards alignment.
Oh, and that's so funny that you use the word expand, because I was like, it feels like such a wonderful opportunity to streamline. But streamline is also because you're like, I'm streamlining because I want to expand in this direction, right? They go hand in hand, really. But it is like such a good time to streamline and expand for sure.
Oh, yeah, that's so cool. Well, before we dive deeper into other dates during Sagittarius season, Patty and I were thinking about pulling a card for you guys and to see which card pops up and with which you could like meditate. We're going to share them on our Instagram and in our newsletters. And it will be really interesting to see which card comes up so we can receive more guidance. Shall we?
Yeah, definitely something cool to keep in mind.
Yeah, so I'm
because you're
shuffling
moving
the
through the month.
cards. I'm shuffling the cards. I already like mixed them before. I cleared them. They know what we want from them. Okay, let's see if one jumps out or more. Ooh, yes. The 10 of Cups.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
Yes.
It feels so like one of the first keywords that comes to mind is emotional fulfillment. But I have a very interesting personal relationship to 10 of Cups. And one of the phrases that really comes up for me is your heart is home. And there's a few ways to think about that, right? For the Sagittarius season month, like your heart is home. What does your heart want? And it's actually come up in a few different ways, like where it's like, in a situation, what does your heart actually want? Can you listen to your heart? Can you follow its directives? If not, why not? And making it your home. I think wow, that's so fascinating because it makes me think of Sagittarius season being so much about beliefs and philosophy, ethics, morals. That's such a big part of Sag season. And when your heart is home, there's no right answer except for the one that's right for you, right? And
yes.
It feels so that emotional connection to knowing what's right for you, and that in itself being so fulfilling, and from that place creating fulfillment for yourself, right? Not external standards of things or protocols or the ways things are done, or even external validation, but being like, what is in there and what feeds that? And then how do you use what feeds that and it growing to create more of your external reality? How do you use that as a compass? How do you develop it to use it as a compass? So that would be some interesting questions to ask. What comes up for you, Marjorie, when you see that? I just like jumped right in. Sorry. I was like,
oh, no, it's perfect. It's amazing. I love it. It always gives me like a inspiration too. So as you were speaking, I was thinking about, because you mentioned fulfillment, right? So it feels like my cups are full, some sort of completion energy too, but also unison or doing things together or not being alone, being open, living with this open, welcoming and embracing energy. It's kind of like a baseline frequency almost that we can embody during Sag season, like moving towards completion, towards fulfillment, towards embracing life, welcoming life, right? So,
Oh, and
yeah.
that feeds so much into that adventure or explorer quality too. I mean,
Mhm.
it's like you wouldn't necessarily put these together in that way, but when it comes up for this season, it does feel like that. How do you use a full heart as a compass, and embracing life,
Mhm.
the adventures and the explorations and the ways that you wish to grow, and yeah, all of those things.
Yeah, and there
And
is also so much blue in the card, which is the throat chakra. So a lot about communication and manifesting with that energy, the life that you want to live, that you want to create, that you want to explore, and the energies you want to be in. Which type of philosopher do you want to be? Which type of adventurer do you want to be? How do you want to explore your life through this energy? So, very beautiful, actually. And then ground yourself in that energy too. Mm.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I have a real, like, lately I have a real soft spot for that card. So that's really
Mm.
amazing that it came up, because I wouldn't normally put these two together, but I love that that came up for us, especially after such an intense Libra and Scorpio season. It
Yes.
feels like Sagittarius can be so about energy and movement and like inspiration and yeah, get things going, and then but this really softens it, I mean, I think it really
Hmm.
brings in where we've been and being like, how do we weave that into where we're going too?
Yes. And also a fresh breath of air that we can bring into the Sag themes. So to look at the Sag themes in a, as you said, in a softer way.
Yeah. And I think if we look at Saturn, that first few days of, that we talked about with Saturn, this using your heart as a compass, using that emotional fulfillment
Hmm.
as a compass through that grindy bit, right? And even when there's the full moon with confusion or potential conflict, right? Words and information being like distractions, like using that emotional fulfillment or heart as a compass can also bring incredible clarity, right? In ways that we might not have
Hmm.
found it before. So,
Yeah.
actually,
And mhm.
oh, no, go
You
ahead,
go
go ahead.
ahead. You know,
No, no,
you
no.
go ahead.
You're about to add. No.
Yes, no, I just wanted to share like how much my heart space is opening up right now and how I feel like I'm really grounding into the energies that we are talking about. And it makes all the like the reveal, the revelations, the breakthroughs that I just experienced so much softer as well.
Mhm.
So I feel like I'm processing in real time.
Folks, Marjorie is evolving in real time.
Woot.
I mean, we all are, right? But yeah,
Yes.
that's really amazing that people get to hear that in real time.
Hmm. So yeah, I mean, as far as I can say, I feel like Sag season brings a lot of opportunities for us to integrate the things that we experienced during Scorpio season. And now is the time to take like the practical steps, right? To integrate our learnings and maybe create new patterns.
I
You
think
want to say?
I would, yeah, I would say like, don't even worry about practical. I would be like, have fun with it, Like that's where that
Hmm.
adventurous experimenter, like, well, if I just learn this, how about I try this over here? Like, if I just learn that this isn't true for me, then what would I try at this party tonight? Let me be kind of
Hmm.
bold and brave about it, and let me be kind of crazy about it. Yeah, it could be really fun, to do that. And yeah, just see where it lands. I think it's like a really fun way to do it for sure.
Yeah, I guess what I meant with practical was more like the physical action that we can take in the physical realm.
Like actually doing it, right? Like actually doing
Yeah.
it.
Right.
So then we've just talked about the Gemini full moon, which is on the 27th. And there is after that, I think the other major thing, there are a couple of major things this month, but the other major thing that I think is something to really keep in mind, I think the 10 of Cups is so beautiful for, is Neptune stations direct in Pisces on December 6th. And when planets like Neptune, which are the outer planets, station to go retrograde or direct, with Neptune, you want to think about it like a flooding of emotion, of intuition, of inspiration, of confusion, of meaning. It's like the energy amplifies. And what it does is it's kind of like a leak. I'd say it starts on like December 1st, really amplifies by the 6th, and then like starts to dissipate by the 11th. So we're looking at like a 10-day period of really feeling Neptune energy in a heightened way. And of course, some of us are going to be feeling it way more than others, depending on our charts, because some people are having Neptune flood their lives, like literally or figuratively, but we will all feel it. And so that week after the Gemini full moon feels like a cleansing. We just had that like confusing full moon. Then it's a reconnection to dreams and meaning, like what truly has meaning for me, what inspires me, what do I truly love? Not even love like romantic love, but like love like in that universal way, in that unconditional way of like, oh my God, these
Mm.
experiences, I feel so connected to this land. I feel so connected to this food or any of those things. So it's like a cleansing, a realignment, reconnection to dreams and meaning. And I do want to say with this aspect, one of the things that can really come up is disappointment and disillusionment and confusion. And when those things are coming up, if that's one of the ways that Neptune shows up for you, it is not to be like everything sucks. It is to actually be like, let this be a guide to show you what actually has meaning. So you might be very disappointed in a situation because it didn't turn out the way you wanted, or you might be disappointed because you're realizing like something about a friend that you didn't realize before. And it's like, let this be a guide to reorient you on your path. Yeah, does that make sense? Like,
Mhm.
using those as clues, but then also letting yourself flow, especially that week. Don't try to like force yourself to do stuff if you don't feel like it. It's like a big download time, I feel like, and
Mm,
it's
mhm.
a big like floaty time, but it's not just to float. It's what we talked about at the beginning, like that time where you're not doing anything is so important, right? Inspiration wants to come through, healing wants
Yes.
to take place, and meaning wants to be made known to you. So that's right after the Gemini full moon. Emotional fulfillment, making your heart your home and your compass is also wonderful to think about in that time period. So it can feel like
Yeah.
a bit of a washing machine again in that time period, but in a different way. Kind of like you're like floating in the ocean, maybe, and you're like, I don't know where I'm going right now. Like, kind of feel like that too.
But in a way, it kind of solidifies also the exploration phase that is happening in the beginning of Sag season. So it's like
Mm.
we're doing all of this exploration and like tasting new flavors. And then from the 1st until the 6th of December, Neptune direct in Pisces. And then it feels like, okay, we are in this washing machine, like tumbling around and being cleansed and I don't know what. It's because we're probably also getting rid of the stagnancy because Sagittarius season is about movement, is about flow too, right?
Hmm. And like looking at like experimenting and then having that check-in being like, all right, I've just tried a bunch of stuff. What do I actually like? Like what
Mhm.
actually means something to me? And even tying it into the Saturn period, you're streamlining so that you have more space to expand when Neptune stations, right? There's less
Mhm.
clutter, there's less distraction. So there's a lot of ways that it can all work together for you if you just flow with whatever is coming up right at that
Mhm.
time.
So there's
Um,
so much opportunities too to connect not only with your heart space, but to develop your intuition even more and to strengthen it and to connect with your psychic abilities too, right?
Oh, yeah, with Neptune, definitely. And I think one other thing that really ties into that 10 of Cups card is when we talk about manifestation, it's like you got to manifest from what your heart actually wants, what you actually truly authentically want. The things that you want that are based on keeping up social media, image, what your parents wanted you to do, whatever. I mean, yes, you can manifest those, but will those be A, fulfilling and B, long lasting? Usually not as much, right? And I think that Neptune can have this really beautiful quality of connecting to those true heart's desires. So that real
Mhm.
letting go quality is in there, that real surrendering quality of like whatever's coming up, whatever I'm actually disappointed with. Maybe I didn't want to be disappointed with that because that means something has to change. And Neptune's like, nah, brah, you're disappointed. Like, what do you want to do about it?
Yeah, but on the other hand, too, right? Like when we connect the heart space and the intuition with the Sagittarius energies and the Ten of Cups, it feels like there is so much potential for soul growth, too.
That feels very Neptune. It is a very spiritual energy. And
Hmm.
spiritual is just you and your connection to what you believe in, a higher power, a larger force, and that very much about soul, right? I often associate Neptune with the energy of the universe, even though it's all the energy of the universe, but Neptune is so
Extra.
Yeah. So, anyways, it could be a wonderful time to get into creative practices, allow yourself to flow, create, dance, move, but also just like let go and rest and meditate, record your dreams. A fantastic time for all of that because something wants to come through.
Oh my God, that's exciting. Okay, so after the Neptune period, what's next?
So right after the Neptune energy dissipates, we have the Sagittarius new moon. And so this one is also interesting because new moons are definitely like a huge manifestation point, or I don't want to say huge, but they are a significant manifestation point every month in a different part of your chart and your life. And this one feels wonderful because we're post eclipse season, it's Sagittarius, so fiery and inspired. But right after that, we start Mercury retrograde on December 13th. So we're already in Mercury's shadow for a lot of Sagittarius season. And so that doesn't mean you can't manifest with it, right? That you can't start on it. But I do think it means there may be other things coming up for you with the Mercury retrograde, which is actually going to go on from December 13th to, where are my notes on this? Into January. And so it's like a time for review, right? And Mercury retrograde is always when we're being invited to do a review, to look at what we're dragging behind us into where we want to go when it's ready to be let go of, and it's in Capricorns. Set intentions with a new moon. It is a point of new beginnings, but also there is the retrograde right afterwards. It's an interesting time to do more decluttering or more review, more what's still here that I'm ready to let go and leave behind. And so it's an interesting
Mhm.
month. It feels very like whoop, 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 like
Mhm.
and up and down. And that Mercury retrograde, I think, is going to be pretty interesting for a lot of us. So be patient with the process if you're setting some big intentions with the new moon. It's all about inspired new beginnings, but with an initial internal review with an initial cleaning up old business before charting ahead.
Yeah, and I think cleaning up old business first and then think about new beginnings and then be patient. That's how it feels like. And to also like go slow. It feels like there's so much opportunity to also just sit with yourself, to center yourself in who you want to be, who you desire to be, to review the past couple of months so you can rise from the ashes. Right?
You're so right, because actually the Sagittarius new moon is like the first new moon outside of eclipse season. And that Scorpio new moon on November 13th was very disruptive, and this one feels like, okay, yeah, fresh start. But actually, look at all the shit that just went down, And so I know we've talked a lot about integration and implementation. But even within Sagittarius season, we can see that there's still a lot of things that are coming up, and we're still
Residues.
integrating and implementing. So, yeah, I think exactly what you said, clean up old business, start the new beginnings. And then what was the last thing you said?
But be patient.
Oh, be patient. Yes, be patient. After that, there are a lot of dates, which actually are in the freebie that we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes. But I have a calendar so you can follow along with all these dates and other ones. But after that, we enter Capricorn season on the winter solstice on December 21st. And
Oh,
I feel like this Capricorn season is going to be on. It's a very significant one. And so we're going to definitely get into that for the forecast coming up, but I just want to say that to be like, take advantage of Sagittarius season to experiment, to try, to adventure, to try new things, because Capricorn season is also a big wrap up point this year. Like, I mean, a big one, and I think
mhm.
even collectively, we may really feel this Capricorn season because Pluto is finally leaving Capricorn after 15 years. And this is the last time we're going to have Capricorn season with Pluto and Capricorn. It just feels like a really big wrap up too. And we've just had the big wrap ups with the Taurus lunar eclipse and everything. So this, I feel like from now to the end of the year, it's just like, yeah, like really letting go, letting go of the past and starting new paths ahead, but maybe not knowing exactly where we're going yet. And that's okay.
Yeah. But I mean, the whole year has been big. Like so many big things have happened. I don't know if I understand that correctly, but Capricorn and Pluto being the last time after 15 years, is that a cycle that is closing too?
Yeah, it is. And that's a very like macro one because Pluto moves very, very slowly. And so we only get a few Pluto sign changes in our lifetimes. It was in 2008 when Pluto moved into Capricorn. And so every time we had Capricorn season since 2008, the holidays, Pluto was in Capricorn. And
Mm-hmm.
this is the very last time for 15 years. And then in the end of January, Pluto will move into Aquarius for good. It was there earlier this year for a little bit. And so it does feel like a wrap up. And maybe for some of us, it won't feel that significant. I do think collectively, it'll be some interesting stuff that will really show us where
Mm-hmm.
we've been in the last 15 years. If you think about it, in America, we had huge financial crisis right when Pluto entered Capricorn.
Yeah, I was just going to
And
mention that. Mm-hmm.
yeah, COVID, there have been a lot of things that have happened in the financial markets. And so it's going to be very interesting. So I think this is the time, Sagittarius season is the time to experiment, integrate, implement, try, follow your heart, see what
Mm-hmm.
happens, and then give yourself that foundation for what may be a more serious Capricorn season.
Ooh, it's exciting. It sounds like a lot of like a big wave or many big waves coming at us. But I don't know, not in a negative way. It's the wave is coming so we can cleanse and purify.
And yeah, if you even think about eclipse season being really intense and the Sag season being like, okay, let's just experiment for a little while because we're going to get to work in Capricorn season, right? And then we have that
Mhm.
Mercury retrograde there. So it feels like a intense and then, and then, okay, back to work. It kind of feels like that a little bit.
Oh my God. So maybe this is a good time to share our gifts that we have for the listeners. What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to
Yeah.
share yours?
Yeah, so like last time, I have created a Sagittarius season interactive calendar. And so all the dates we mentioned here, plus all of the other ones, there's way more besides the full moon, Neptune, and the new moon. And so what you can do with this calendar is click on each date, and there will be keywords and key themes about what the invitation from the universe is that day. So you can really align with the energy. And it's going to really help with if things feel crazy or disruptive or things change all of a sudden. You can take a look at the calendar and be like, what is the energy today? And you can see what the invitation is with anything that comes up. And that will be available to download. I think the link will be in the show notes. And it's
Yes.
just a bird's eye view. So you can follow along really easily with everything that Marjorie and I discussed today and more.
So cool. Thank you, Patty. And
Mhm.
I mean, I really love this Astro calendar because the way I use it, I like to look at it like a couple of days before a cosmic event will occur. And then, just sit with that and to feel into the energy and see what comes up for me personally, not
Mhm.
collectively, not what my neighbor could think or, whatever. It's just, but how could I experience this energy and this, and then just sit with it and be open to receive the nudges, the hunches, the downloads, the messages, right?
Mhm.
So
That's the
thank
whole point.
you.
Exactly how you said it.
All right. So let me introduce my gift from me to you. I have a mini course for you called the Soul Intuitive. It's designed to support you with connecting with your intuition on a deeper level through a self hypnosis and a subliminal audio, an energy healing meditation, which is infused with the highest quantum healing frequencies, a guidebook, and tons of affirmations So you can rewire your subconscious beliefs and that are maybe blocking you from unleashing your intuition. And I also included bonuses that are designed to assist you further on developing your intuition. So yay.
It so
And
fits with Sag season.
exactly. Yes. That's why I decided to to go with that mini course. And the original price is 111 euros, and you can currently get it for 47 euros. So this hefty discount is available throughout Sag season, and it's perfect if you want to enhance your intuitive abilities and develop more trust in your intuition, which is perfect when Neptune hits Pisces, right?
And I think it'll be we really try to think about like, what can you use together, right? Like not have them be definitely like not repetitive between the two gifts, but also it's like you can have this bird's eye view of the month ahead and also be honing and developing your intuition and working with your beliefs, which are also such a huge Sagittarius keyword. So doing both sides of the work at the same time, or even both sides of the exploration instead of calling it work. So yeah, we really designed our things to be like wonderful ways to work together that you can actually just do all the time throughout the season.
Yeah, and also maybe you find a date on the astro calendar and you feel like, oh, this theme speaks to me today. So let's see which affirmation I can use from the mini course, or which audio can I listen to today because it still happens to fit with that date on the calendar, right? Hey, all right.
So
Do
links for
you?
both will be in the show notes, right? And then,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, for sure. I have one announcement to share, and it's about the in-person soul alignment workshop, which is taking place on Saturday on November 25th from 3 to 5 p.m. CET, which is Central European Time, at Place Blaycar, numero 6 in Ixelles. And in the workshop, we're going to navigate and align to the current energies we are experiencing, especially the themes that are connected to Sag season. So you can maintain your energy and dive deeper into themes that are predominant in your life. We're also going to do an Antohai Quantum Reiki and Energy Alchemy group healing so we can support the integration process that we're currently moving through. It's only 22 euros per person, and you can sign up through the link in the show notes. And you can either purchase your spot through bank transfer, PayPal, or cash at the day of the workshop. Bring your pen and paper, a water bottle, and wear cozy and comfy clothes.
I wish I could go.
I wish you could come. One day. Yeah. I know you're there in spirit, but still would be so amazing to have you there physically.
Yeah, I mean, so for those of you that don't know, I'm in Brooklyn, New York, and Marjorie's in Brussels. We have like not severe, it's not a severe time difference, but we are on opposite, we're very far from each other.
Yeah, 6 hours difference.
Oh, so I need to come there one time to go to your live workshop. I need to just do it.
Yes. Yes. I highly recommend that. Patty, any last thing you want to add?
No, I think that's it. As always, it is so wonderful to be here with you, Marjorie. Thanks for having me again.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I really, really appreciate you. I love you. I love our conversations. I love how we can be an inspiration for our listeners and also to our listeners. Please share all of your takeaways. If you want to connect with us, just send us an email or connect with us on Instagram. All of our links will be in the show notes. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for sharing this space with us. I appreciate you. I'm sending you so much love and happy vibes. Bye.
Bye.